Elections have clearly taken over the headlines in the United States in the last few months, but also in Israel, with the country set to hold its fourth election in less than 2 years. Prime Minister Netanyahu is currently embattled with corruption lawsuits, a large anti-government protest movement, as well as several of his most staunch supporters leaving his Likud party. Now he's trying to change his tactics. According to Israel's Channel 12, Netanyahu wants to break the, quote, veto of Israel's Arab parties on the country's Arab population, a flip turn in his usual campaign tactics. Now let's hear more about it from Yoseph Haddad, an activist and the CEO of Together, Vouch for Each Other. Thank you so much for joining us, Yoseph.
Thank you for having me.
So first of all, what percentage of the Arab-Israeli population normally votes for Netanyahu? Do you think that could change with the right campaigning?
First of all, we're talking about between 1.5% to 2%, which is around 10,000 votes that vote for the Likud without the Likud actually making and doing any campaign. But the issue is not whether the Arab voters voted for the Likud or for any right-wing party in Israel in the election. The question is all about the joint list. And the joint list failed big time. The joint list proved that it doesn't matter if you are with 10 seats, 13 seats, or 15 seats. They are in the opposition. They're not doing anything for our society. And unfortunately, we've seen this in the last year where our Arab society is going backward with no solution. What happened is that finally, we are seeing that Likud, Yamina, Gidon Sa'ar, new political party, also Yair Lapid, and part of the left-wing parties in the Knesset are actually wanting to address the Arab voice. This is something that I welcome. This is something that we wanted to happen. And we are talking about, listen to this. According to the last polls, the joint list is about 11 seats, which means that the joint list lost almost or over 150,000 votes. Those votes are waiting for a political party to collect them. Now, since we don't have an Arab alternative, the alternative goes to the Jewish political parties. They must go for it.
Well, Yosef, Netanyahu famously warned his right-wing Likud supporters in previous elections that, quote, the Arabs were coming out in buses to vote, an intimidation tactic of sorts, to get more Likud supporters to come out. So this is quite a new voter demographic for him. Is that correct?
Yeah. So what happened is, back then, the campaign tactic of the Likud and Benjamin Netanyahu, it was obvious, and I spoke about it a lot in the last 2 years. Me, my organization, Together Vouch for Each Other, we tried as much as we can to urge everyone not to do a generalization, not to talk about the Arabs are running and going in buses to vote, but to talk about specific parties such as the joint list, not to come and say we will not sit down in a coalition with the Arabs, rather than to say we will not sit down with the joint list and the supporters such as Ahmed Tibi and Ayman Odeh. And I'm happy to see that finally, 2 years later, Likud and the rest of the political parties, the Jewish political parties, understood the way that should address the Arab votes. I think the most amazing thing is that the Arab Israeli wants to be an integral part of the Israeli society and wants to be the voice that influences our political life. And that's why all the political parties, especially in the Jewish part, addressing our voices. It is good. We need that to keep on coming. It is a campaign, but it is time for all of them to address us and to talk to us. We are here, and we want to affect.
Well, it will certainly be a fascinating election. Yoseph Haddad, thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Thank you. You're welcome.